So one other thing that I was interested in, I saw that Trudeau, one of the things he did was they passed a carbon tax. And
Hmm.
it seems like I don't know if it's gone through yet. It seems like they're
No,
still,
they were,
yeah.
yeah,
It seemed like
it's
people
in
were pissed,
process.
right? So can you
Well,
talk about
yeah,
that and how it's done? And like, do you
yeah,
support
for
it or
sure.
not?
For sure. So I did 100% support it as a liberal. I'm, again, a bit on the fence for this one. So I support the purpose, I support the intention. It hasn't been well received in any province except pretty much where Trudeau is from, like Ontario, Quebec. They've accepted it. We actually just had, was it last weekend? I think there was a summit in New Brunswick. Scott Moe, our new premier, went, all the premiers went to discuss the carbon tax. So Doug Ford, the new mayor of Toronto, is wanting to axe it. The guy in Manitoba wants to axe it. Scott Moe said, absolutely not. We're not bringing it to Saskatchewan. I think Alberta wants to axe it. BC's on board. So it's a bit of a conflict in our country right now, for sure. Liberals have a majority government, but that doesn't mean they can do whatever they want. So they wanted to push this through. A lot of the people are saying no. Because of the demographic of the West, I don't think it's going to go through. I think they're going to try and try. I think it's going to get axed. Now, Saskatchewan claims, the Environment Ministry claims they have a plan of their own, that we don't want the 62 billion or million rather that the government would give us to cooperate with the carbon tax, because we're doing our own thing and we don't need their money. So I would be curious to see what that plan is. I'm fine with no carbon tax if our government is still somewhat ethically responsible and not just okay with raping and pillaging the land. I
Yeah.
mean, Stephen Harper was the one thing I really hated about him was he cut a lot of environmental programs, water research programs, things like that, important stuff. He made some changes that were sort of in the background that you wouldn't know about if you didn't work in the environmental field, that I don't support. So that's something where libertarianism, I'm new enough to the party that I haven't gone into candidacy yet. I don't know where they stand. I know they're anti-carbon tax. I know that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um, I think we're all a bit different on environmentalism and how far we want to push
Mhm,
that. For me, my biggest concern is pollution less than
mhm.
carbon. In Canada, we have a bigger concern about oil spills and stuff. Like for me, I'm
Yeah.
more concerned about a horrible oil spill that's affecting our water. We had one in our city 2 years ago, and it was devastating, right? And they're concerned about the quality now, and I won't even drink it. I drink out of a filter. So
Mhm.
that kind of stuff to me is a bigger concern than carbon specifically in Canada right now.
Yeah. Have you did was there any debate about if they're going to do a carbon tax or do something like cap and trade, some kind of free market version of a price on carbon?
Yeah, I know in Saskatchewan they're talking about that. They're talking about, I mean, they haven't given us the details, but it's more of a, yeah, we're going to do this, but we're going to be doing it working privately with the commercial sector, working privately with companies. I don't know what the other provinces are doing. I haven't looked into it. I think BC is quite content with it. Everyone else seems to think it's just going to ruin taxpayers and we're all going to pay so much. I mean, I don't know. That's yet to be seen, but that seems to be the fear, I guess. People are very
Mhm.
scared that it's going to affect the middle class, the tax dollars. So that's where I think
Yeah.
that anyone who's trying to get around it is trying to work around so that no ordinary Canadians have to pay. Now,
Uh-huh.
how they're going to do that should be interesting, right? Because it's a touchy subject and it's important. It's very important. You can't ignore it, right? So you
Yeah, for
can't be
sure.
a climate change denier. Just because you don't maybe buy into the full rhetoric, you still have to recognize that there's a problem,
I
I
think
think.
there's definitely a debate about solutions. I know, for
Mhm.
instance, California, we have a cap and trade system that
Right.
was passed when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor. He's a big environmentalist.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it's been,
When was he done? When
it
was
was
he
like,
done out of office?
what has he done? He's talked a lot of shit about Trump. Like
When was he?
he's acting now too, actually. Back to acting.
Oh, okay. I really haven't followed Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger at all. So
I mean, if he's an interesting figure because, like, I really
he
think
is.
that if he could have run for president, he could have given Trump a run for his money. Like, as a legit, he's
You know
like,
what? He actually
what?
very well might have. I
Yeah,
didn't think
he's
Trump would get in, so hey, who knows,
right. Yeah,
right?
he's like
So
one of the legitimate like people. Like, he has actual ideas. He believes in
he
things. He's
does.
not like insane. He's not a demagogue.
He's not
But
just a Terminator.
no, but like, it's really funny
So true.
because
So true.
like I've come to realize that he's like actually a pretty good type of like he's what the future of the Republican Party
Yeah.
should be. And he's actually been
Right.
trying to
Yeah.
do that. They ran this like because in California Republicans are like totally been decimated. They don't
Right.
hold
Yes,
much
I've heard.
power.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't I think that they don't even have like many seats in our like basically we have like a House and a Senate, and they barely have much representation there.
That doesn't
Um,
surprise me. Yeah.
yeah, and so the state's gone a little bit more. It's definitely gone to the left from, like when I was a child. Most people wouldn't know, but like in the 70s and 80s, California was a very right wing stronghold. Like
Okay.
Nixon was from here, Reagan was from here, all kinds of people, that became very prominent Republican legislators or
Mhm.
presidents. The problem was they kind of like started alienating minorities. In the
Right.
90s, they ran this. It was like Prop 187, basically said that if your child was like undocumented, they wouldn't give them any services, and it
Okay.
passed. But then it was found unconstitutional, and like basically from that day, that was like in the 90s, like 92. From that point forward, like the state shifted to the left quite a bit.
Okay. So that was like
Um,
there was a moment, like a monumental moment where people said, "Okay, enough. We're doing something different."
Yeah,
Then.
I think, and this is kind of like how I feel with Trump. I think that what happens is certain people who are neutral, they feel threatened by the government, and then they
Mhm.
become political because they're like, well,
Mhm.
I can't be neutral anymore because the government is coming after me and my family. So if I'm neutral, I'm going to get attacked. You know,
Right.
like as long as the status quo doesn't harm people, people are fine. But once the status quo changes and you're being harmed, you get activated. So yeah, that
Right.
happened in
Right.
California, and then another thing Schwarzenegger was against was gerrymandering. So they set up this
Okay.
neutral um, group of judges to create the districts, and the districts that were neutral basically favored Democrats, and then they just took over it. And Jerry Brown came back. He's been governor for since 2010. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's kind of why that happened. I
Oh,
Yeah, but
interesting.
yeah, back
Interesting.
to the point. So yeah, Schwarzenegger passed the cap and trade, and cap and trade has been very successful here because it
Oh,
hasn't really overburdened certain like businesses and stuff, but it's also
right.
helped reduce our amount of carbon emissions, and it's reduced it better than what our targets were. So I think that's a good
Okay,
solution if
good.
the carbon tax is like, because a
Yeah.
lot of economists have been talking about what is the best solution, because most economists agree that taxing carbon is something that we want to do going forward. That's the type of thing we want to
Right.
tax
Yeah.
because it has positive externalities as a tax,
Yeah.
as opposed to other taxes that might actually harm,
Yes, and it's about
other.
accountability, right? And accountability to me is a big part of, if you're just holding businesses accountable, because you can't just allow people to be doing whatever the hell they want. That's not, you can't, this place won't last forever, right? If we do that. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's,
no, it won't.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely, I haven't abandoned all my liberal ideals, I guess we'll
Sure,
put it
sure.
that way. I've certainly have not gone back as far conservative as I was,